So if we learned anything Thursday night, it's that the NFL draft this year is going to be as unpredictable as ever, with shock pick after shock pick in the first round. Those were the rumors, and they came true. And every rumor I heard basically did not come true. Some of them did, but man, this was an unpredictable first round. The Lions at least made sure of that. I'll be having a video that breaks down the most shocking picks of the first round, as well as the best picks, the steals of the first round. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not subscribed already. And let's go ahead and try our hand at a second round mock draft with rounds 2 and 3 coming up. So this is going to be interesting, because players that we just did not expect to be here are here, available in round 2. The Steelers kick things off at 32, basically a first-round pick without the fifth-year option, courtesy of the Dolphins forfeiting their first-rounder for tampering, and I'm sure they would have appreciated having that pick, obviously. Steelers benefit from it, if only by one spot, and I'll tell you, the fact that Joey Porter Jr. has made it to 32, I just cannot pass on that. The lineage, the fact that he's fallen all this way, the fact that he's still a really good fit for their scheme, press man, corner, he's one of the best in the draft at that. And here he is at 32. You know, I'm not like blown away that he fell out of the first round. You know, in a number of my final mock drafts I did, I had him between 23, 24, and 30. And in the final 3, you know, it doesn't surprise me that he's available at 32. I would be surprised if the Steelers let him get past them at 32, though. And then the Cardinals. And it's a second round. You know, teams aren't necessarily going to draft for need here. And not that they do in the first round either. But sometimes it's, all right, we got a number of needs. We may, you know, like this player more than this one. We have a need at speed receiver, we'll say, or slot receiver. But we like a guy a little bit better, you know, maybe around pick 80 compared to pick 30. So they might just go BPA still and try to address a number of needs while still valuing, you know, that draft position. So this is going to be very unpredictable. I'd be lucky to get one. Although, you know, Budda Baker trade rumors are kind of running wild right now. We expect the Cardinals to trade DeAndre Hopkins as well. So I think receiver could be in play. But I am going to go Brian Branch. You know, he was somebody I expected to go in round 1, but I'm not shocked to see him fall out of the first round. We know the league doesn't particularly value slot corners / safeties, and that's what he is. And he's very good at that. Didn't test particularly well, but is a very good player. And when I see a replacement for Budda Baker, it is Brian Branch, and they need help at corner too. So not only could he seamlessly take over the Budda Baker role, in my opinion, I think he could play slot corner for you and be one of the better ones in the league. I am a huge Brian Branch fan. I was happy with my favorite team, the Giants, taking Deonte Banks at 25. I would have been happy with Brian Branch at 25. I think he's that good of a player. At 34, I have the Lions going Michael Mayer. This one's interesting. This is a player I absolutely did not think would make it out of the first round. And I'll tell you, I thought he may have been even the first tight end selected over Dalton Kincaid, who might have a little bit of an injury thing. But Mayer was the one who fell to the second round. We thought that maybe 3 could go in round 1, and only 1 ends up going in the first. I think the line on tight ends was 2.5, and we only saw 1. Kind of crazy. But Michael Mayer to the Lions, I just think the value's too good to pass up there. And we saw from the Lions taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 and Jack Campbell at 18. They're not afraid to draft for the player they want over positional value, and drafting a running back, a linebacker, and a tight end would be a really good way to show that. But Michael Mayer is very, very good, and I do like the value here. And then this one's interesting, because I think Julius Brents makes sense here, honestly, for Indianapolis. But I'm going to go ahead and keep the teammates together. O'Cyrus Torrence would plug in at right guard when he played at Florida. He's blocking for Anthony Richardson again. He is a mauler in the run game, and I think that's the identity that the Colts want. Quentin Nelson, obviously, at left guard, plug and play at right guard with O'Cyrus Torrence, and gets to go ahead and travel with his teammate Anthony Richardson. Of course, Richardson's probably already in Indianapolis, but you know what I mean, for the foreseeable future. And then I will finally end the fall. You know, Eric Galko, the East-West Shrine Bowl director, I believe his title is director, predicted the Rams to trade up into the first round to grab Will Levis, pick up the fifth-year option on him. And I didn't really see that as a viable option. They just don't have the ammunition. They don't have the picks in order to actually move. And their roster's not good enough. But in a scenario where Will Levis falls to at 36, I can already make that quarterback to team connection. And they're going to need a quarterback. I think Will Levis makes sense at 36. Now, what I would like the Rams to do with this spot, if I were them, is to trade down and actually accumulate picks. They need to fill so many holes on their roster. So I could see this being a trade down. But Will Levis is sitting there. You might just say, hey, the value's too good to pass up on him. You know, we couldn't draft him in the first round. We didn't have a first-round pick. But who's to say the Rams wouldn't have taken Will Levis if they picked at, what was it, number 5 overall were the Lions, or 6 overall? I think it was the Rams' actual first-rounder. Of course, the Lions had it, and they traded down. But, you know, there are a number of different ways that could go. And I do think... Moving on here, I think Steve Avila is a great fit for the Seahawks. I tried to mix a lot of the top 30 visits together, and there were some teams, like the Lions, for example, who, interestingly enough, did not have top 30 visits with either of their 2 first-round picks, and that's not exceptionally unusual, but I almost wonder if they're completely doing smoke screens with their top 30 visits, and they met with a number of tight ends. None of them were Michael Mayer, by the way, so that's maybe something to monitor. At number 38 for the Raiders, I've got DJ Turner. You know, the order that these cornerbacks go off the board is going to be interesting. I just think Turner has a really good blend of speed as well as man coverage ability. I think he's a good fit for the Raiders who need cornerback help. Panthers at 39. Looked at a bunch of different options on this one. I eventually ended up settling on that they need edge help pretty badly, and I've decided to go with BJ Ojulari from LSU. Now, some teams... You couldn't really find sources on who they brought in for top 30 visits. And as I've said, top 30 visits don't necessarily mean a player is going to go to a certain team, although I did factor that in with some of these. For example, you'll see some. I don't think I've had any up to this point, but Will Levis might have gone to the Rams. I can't recall. For the 40th pick, I don't know how I feel about this one, but I do think these running backs are going to go off the board here in round 2. We saw Jahmyr Gibbs go early. We saw Bijan Robinson go early. These guys went earlier than we really expected by a lot. I think the same could happen in round 2. And a guy like Devon Achane, you appreciate his unbelievable speed. I think he would add an element of, you know, home run hitting ability into that offense that, you know, they have some home run hitters. Chris Olave over the top. Rashid Shaheed is a fun little playmaker. But they don't really have that in the backfield right now. Alvin Kamara, big question mark. I could see this being Devon Achane after going Brian Brzee at 29. Could also see it going a number of different directions as well. As I said, it's kind of tough. And then you look at the Tennessee Titans. And for all the reasons I think they may have liked Zay Flowers, I think they could also appreciate Josh Downs in the slot. So receiver at 41, you know, he doesn't offer the same type of speed that Zay Flowers has, but I really, really like Josh Downs. I wouldn't have been shocked to see him sneak into the first round. We saw a big run on receivers in that 20 to 23 range. I think we saw 3 in a row or 4 in a row, right? JSN, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison. So yeah, with JSN, Johnston, and then into the kind of smaller receivers. Not that JSN's big, but he's a little over 6 foot. We saw a bunch of receivers go. I thought maybe a team like Buffalo could be a spot for Josh Downs. I thought maybe the Chiefs would take a receiver, but Josh Downs, good value at 41. You know, they kind of like that slot style of receiver, and they didn't really find it with Robert Woods. I think Josh Downs could offer you what you're actually looking for. And then at 42, man, if this is not my favorite team to play or fit in the entire draft, Darnell Washington at 42. Shades of Mercedes Lewis as a run blocker. He is a monster. 6'7", 270, 280 pounds. I mean, he's massive. Maybe he's not 280, but 260, 270. He's a freak. And I think is improving as a receiver, but he is an extension of the run game of the offensive line for right now. And I think he's a really, really good player, and he just seems like a Packer, and they need tight end badly. Could also be a receiver, would not shock me. And then I have the Jets going DeJuan Jones. You know, they didn't take a tackle at 15. The one they wanted was not there. They didn't take one. However, I don't know if that stops you from taking a tackle at 43. And for the same reasons that you liked Mekhi Becton, you would also like DeJuan Jones. Now, Maybe you worry about the size and injury concerns. Maybe they don't want a repeat of Mekhi Becton, but the player's good. Mekhi Becton is good. It's just he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Maybe that's the case with DeJuan Jones. Hasn't really been a problem up to this point. Although I think he did check out of the Senior Bowl early with something. But that could have just been because he dominated everyone day one and said, you know what, I'm good. I boosted my stock enough. I was the best offensive lineman here, which I think is true. At 44, I have the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to keep Keon White in state. We know he's going to go high. It's kind of the same deal with Logan Hall last year and Peyton Turner. You know, the guys that we think are going to end up going high because the league values them just end up going high. Keon White was a draft invite, and just because he's a lot more athlete than anything else right now, he has upside. He has potential, and Falcons get to keep him in state. Incredibly smart guy. I think he is majoring in engineering or something like that. So a lot of pretty impressive things about him. Incredible athlete, and also fills a position of need for the Falcons. Help on the defensive line. Kind of inside-outside player. Keon White's a fun one. Packers at 45. I am going to go with receiver here. And Marvin Mims feels like a Packer. Just does. You got Christian Watson as your speed element on the outside. Romeo Doubs, I think, is an outside receiver as well. Marvin Mims in the slot. Apparently, the league is not quite as high on Marvin Mims as some of us, social media analysts are. But I think the player is very, very good and a perfect fit into the Green Bay offense. And we double dip in round 2 on receivers, essentially, for Jordan Love. I think you got to get him some help. He's not Aaron Rodgers, not yet, maybe not ever. Got to get him some help. And Marvin Mims and, of course, Darnell Washington could help do that. Patriots at 46. Going down the board a little bit, but are we? It's Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss. One of the best blends of height, weight, speed in this class. He is one of the better route runners for his size that I've seen. And I think will end up being around a top 50 pick. I think he's going to be one of these guys that goes a little bit higher than expected. You know, I think kind of the same deal about Cedric Tillman. He could absolutely end up going off the board as well. It's been a little bit tough to find homes for these receivers just because there's good depth throughout the class, but maybe lacking that top end talent. But I'm kind of shocked I had Marvin Mims going so early, but I just think he's such a great fit for them. And then I think Mingo the same deal with the Patriots. And he was a top 30 visit for them, so it was one of those things that made sense to me. Commanders at 47. I'm going Cody Mock from North Dakota State. They're going to have him listed at tackle, I guess, but he does profile on the interior as well. Another Senior Bowl standout, another one of these North Dakota State offensive linemen that at least profiles to be pretty good in the league. I like Cody Mock quite a bit. And the Commanders, I think, easily could have chosen to go offensive line at 16. They go corner. I think offensive line is a good option for them here at 47. Lions at 48. Here's the thing. They had a top 30 visit with Adetomiwa Adebawore. And is that complete smoke? Is it something to worry about? I don't know. I'm gonna fall for it. I'm gonna give them Adetomiwa Adebawore anyway. And I figure that if you like Levi Onwuzurike, who is unfortunately we don't know what his career is going to hold because of injury, I think you could like Adetomiwa Adebawore. Probably going to be a 3 tech for you. A little bit undersized at 282, but freak athlete, offers juice on the interior. And everyone tried to make the connection with the Lions of Brad Holmes, a GM, being with the Rams and playing a large part in them drafting Aaron Donald. Well, you talk about an undersized interior defensive lineman that's a freak athlete. I honestly think it's more Adetomiwa Adebawore than Kalijah Cansey. And Cansey's a tremendous athlete, but that just goes to show you about Adebawore. He's on another level. And I think the Lions at 48 would recognize the value of this. This is not an edge so much as it is an inside-outside guy, but I would project him to be more of that interior player. You know, your 3 tech in that defense. Steelers at 49. This one has just made sense to me for a long time. It's Keanu Benton from Wisconsin. Nose tackle so valuable in that Steelers offense. Keanu Benton is a nose tackle with pass rush upside. Showed so at the Senior Bowl and on tape as well. He's someone that's impressive to me and I think is going to end up being a top 50 pick. Finding the exact slot, though, is what's going to be, I would say, especially difficult. And then for the Bucks, I'm going Hendon Hooker, quarterback from Tennessee. It was widely speculated that the Bucks would consider taking a quarterback at 19 or moving up for one. They didn't end up moving up for one. They stayed put, and they drafted Elijah Cansey, which was a surprise. It was a big surprise. But he is the lightning next to the thunder of Vita Vea. I don't hate it. But you did draft Logan Hall again last year. I was just kind of surprised by it. But beefing up the D-line. How about address the offensive side of the ball? You got Baker Mayfield there. You have Kyle Trask. I'm not sure how much you believe in either of them. Hendon Hooker could be a decent option for the future. I think this is an interesting connection. And then for the Dolphins at 51, got to upgrade the offensive line, and Matthew Bergeron is just sitting here. There was speculation he could go as early as the first round tonight. Falls out, and I don't know if he really falls out so much as he's just available. Really good fit for Miami. I think he's the one if he is available. Seahawks at 52. I got to get these linebackers off the board, right? There's some really good ones just sitting there. Drew Sanders, Deion Henley. I'm going Trenton Simpson. They need some linebacker help, and Trenton Simpson is a really, really good one. He is a sideline-to-sideline type guy, plays really well downhill, has the athletic ability to stick in man coverage at times, still kind of finding the feel for zone, but is aggressive, plays fast, plays great downhill. I love Trenton Simpson. I think value for him at 52 is pretty incredible. Bears at 53. This is another one of these top 30 visits that you can follow the breadcrumbs on. And it's at a position they need help with. It's going to be corner, and I'm going to take Tyreek Stevenson from Miami. They need cornerback help. Took a top 30 visit with them. I'm not really going to overcomplicate it more than that. I think that's a pretty good fit for them. Chargers at 54 took Quentin Johnston in the first round. And this one's tough. I think they need edge help. I couldn't really find much on them meeting with any of these guys. It's tough for me to find the value at this position. If I had to guess, I think Byron Young could sneak in around 2 or day 2 at least. But other than that, Derek Hall maybe. I know Isaiah Foskey doesn't really have a ton of fans. I don't know. It's kind of a tough one. It's kind of tough to think of what the Chargers might do. They could use a linebacker as well. So I figured best of both worlds. And I'm giving them Drew Sanders from Arkansas. Has played Mike Backer for Arkansas. Was a former 5-star edge recruit at Alabama. Ended up transferring to Arkansas. And I think he's like a hybrid edge rusher / off-ball linebacker. And would fit the Chargers defense. And then with the 55th pick, this is an interesting one. Because I'll tell you, I had Julius Brents here earlier. And I don't know that I'm going to keep this. Because a receiver I absolutely want to fit into this second round is Cedric Tillman. And I think with Jamison Williams going down for 6 weeks due to suspension for the gambling stuff, you could take a receiver. You could take a receiver anyway. You have your slot guy in Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have your big speed guy in Jamison Williams. But getting Cedric Tillman at 55, I think, is pretty good value. And he would offer, a big chain mover, which is someone they don't really have anyway. So Cedric Tillman is where I'm going to pivot to with the Lions at 55. Jags at 56. I had Cam Smith here. I'm going to keep Cam Smith as Julius Brents tumbles down the board a little bit, but he's also sneaking up anyway. His range could be quite wide. I think that you could say that of a lot of the corners. Giants at 57. I didn't really mean to leave these interior offensive linemen and Luke Musgrave on the board. It's just tough to fit them all in. But John Michael Schmitz is here. Luke Whippler's here. If the Jets don't choose to go with the center at 43, I think they could tumble a little bit. Same thing with the Commanders. But they took a potential center in Cody Mauch. But it's got to be a center here. It could be Joe Tippmann for upside. John Michael Schmitz, I think, is just going to be a really good player. Joe Tippmann, to me, feels like more of what this new Giants regime might be looking for with the high upside athlete. John Michael Schmitz is quite good. But Joe Tippmann, to me, feels like he would be a Giant based on how this new regime seems to be drafting and valuing players. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be the case. Wan'Dale Robinson was a second-round pick, an undersized, not super freak athlete from Kentucky, kind of a hybrid, a slot/gadget running back receiver. But Joe Tippmann, to me, I think, fits what the Giants are looking for. And now I've predicted the Giants' last 3 first-round picks. I had Thibodeau, had Neal, had Deonte Banks. However, I definitely did not have them taking Wan'Dale Robinson last year. So it's tough for me to say exactly what they would do in this spot. But I think Joe Tippmann makes quite a bit of sense there. Cowboys at 58. I mean, these tight ends are just sitting here. And I thought they would go Dalton Kincaid if he was available. He got taken right in front of them by the Bills. And I think the Bills knew that Kincaid would be the pick at 26. They pivot to Mozzie Smith. Here they are again, and some really good tight ends are available that maybe they would have considered in the first round. Sam Laporta, Luke Musgrave. I'm going to go Luke Musgrave. And he was somebody that was injured last year, but profiles to be a monster. Height, weight, speed freak. Another one of these guys, maybe the most athletic tight end in the entire class. Vertical threat for the Cowboys. You've replaced Dalton Schultz. I know you can like their tight ends, what they have there right now, in Peyton Hendershot, Jake Ferguson, but they do not have a Luke Musgrave, and I think that could definitely be something they look to do. And then we have the Buffalo Bills at 59. I think interior offensive line still makes sense for them. Now, they took a tight end, shockingly, Dalton Kincaid at 25. Well, I was shocked. Really, really was surprised. Interior offensive line remains a need. Now, whether or not they would go straight up with a center, that's tough to say. But I think they absolutely could consider that. I love the idea of Antonio Johnson because they need at least depth at safety with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde getting up there in age. Both are on the wrong side of 30 at this point, even though Jordan Poyer was extended, obviously. At least a 1-year deal. Still could go safety. Could go running back. I'm going to go interior offensive line. And here's one of the things about that is, we don't need a guard, we don't need a center, whatever. You can never have enough depth on the offensive line. Injuries can completely derail a season. And I think John Michael Schmitz is a plug-and-play center. And yeah, Mitch Morse exists. But I think John Michael Schmitz is someone that is at least going to be in play here. It's just tough to say whether or not they would take a center or not. For that reason, I am going to, once again, at least consider a pivot. Deion Henley, I don't think fits what they want out of their other linebacker. Milano's really like the cover expert. I think that's what Deion Henley is. That's a tough call for me. I think I'm going to go interior offensive line and just say it's not a bad idea to have depth. We're going to go John Michael Schmitz. And maybe you can play him at guard. Maybe he's just your starting center of the future. Maybe you hate the pick. That's fine. Bengals at 60. Going Sam Laporta. Another guy that I think maybe would have been considered at 28. Here he is at 60. The value's too good to pass on. One of the better tight ends in a very stacked tight end class. Bears at 61. This is completely based off a top 30 visit. I don't know if it feels like it's a little bit too early for him, but he was somebody that was getting first-round hype at one point and has, I would say, uncoachable traits in terms of height, weight, speed. Now, I don't think he tested extraordinarily well, but I think he tested pretty well. It's Jervon Dexter from Florida. Top 30 visit, position of need. I can just kind of make that argument. And when you look at what the Bears have done, you take offensive tackle Darnell Wright at 10, come back, Tyreek Stevenson at 53 to get a corner. Defensive line at 61. I feel like it just kind of aligns. And then at 62, I drafted Zach Charbonnet in the rough draft of this. I think they will take a running back at some point, one that can actually catch the football like Zach Charbonnet. I think would be pretty valuable. And you're going to need a running back. I know they signed Rashad Penny to a 1-year deal. I don't think that matters. I'm actually going to go Deion Henley here. He is a good cover linebacker. I know we've seen them go linebacker in like the third before. I remember Davion Taylor from Colorado. You lost at least TJ Edwards to free agency. I think another linebacker as well. I think Kaiser White has been on the Chargers for a little while now. But Deion Henley fills a need. Do the Eagles do this? Man, I don't know. I know you have Nakobe Dean, but at least look to replace TJ Edwards. Maybe it's Deion Henley here at 62. And then at 63, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to have the running backs fall. I'm going to have some of these offensive linemen fall. We're going to go Jalen Hyatt. The combo of Jalen Hyatt and Patrick Mahomes is just too much to pass on. And you look at the receivers they have on roster, it's not Jalen Hyatt. It's not the speed of Jalen Hyatt. Sky Moore in the slot. Kadarius Toney slot / gadget. You lose Juju Smith-Schuster. Jalen Hyatt can absolutely win over the top. Didn't test extraordinarily well. He's got the game speed. You turn on the tape, he is flying by people. And he's just a long strider. He's smooth. He's got good ball skills. It's just, that's kind of what you worry about right now, is that's all he has. He runs by people and he has good hands. But that is extremely valuable as a field stretcher. And as an insert into the Chiefs offense, man, that feels like a lot of fun. And that's going to do it for this second round mock draft. Let me know what you guys think. I'm sure it's going to be good. My round 1 mock draft did not go well. Tried to follow too many breadcrumbs, it seems, although I don't know if anyone could have predicted the madness that happened inside the first round. If I even predicted one of those Lions picks, I would have been killed in the streets, without question. We'll talk about that and more later, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.